Welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Kyle. We're the fucking Morning Throners.
Welcome back, everybody, to your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We're the Morning Throners. We got Tyrion 13 on deck. Quickie, but maybe a goodie.
Number 3, 2 or 3 of the Battle of Blackwater, depending on if you count that first one, that first Sansa one.
You got to count Sansas. It's going on.
People I don't know dying. What I would. Nothing happened.
There's people dying. We heard it.
It was like in the distance. That wasn't.
Hear the screams of people getting shot.
She was bleeding in there as they bleed out here, as Cersei said. She had her own battle.
Yeah, it's true. Cersei did say that.
This one, Tyrion's bleeding out here. Well, not yet, but potentially soon.
I mean, maybe he does get hurt.
Did you like the chapter, Kyle?
Yeah, this one was way better than the last one because it was much more succinct.
What does succinct mean?
To the point.
Okay.
It wasn't 8 pages of ship formation for them all to get blown up.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a list of like horses' names and stuff at the end there. When
I got on the skinny yellow horse whose left hoof. I'm just kidding.
They link them together. Like Joffrey yells about some of the ship names, and you're like, "Oh, Davos was talking about those ships." Like, I know what's going on here, kind of.
Yeah.
The keen-eyed reader can connect some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, like you get a little bit kind of exactly like what I said. You get a brief take of the battle in the water there. Tyrion kind of goes through everything
from the Lannister side.
Yeah.
And then then it builds right back up again. Like the war didn't let up at the end. So
yeah, we got another deal going on.
Yeah,
you guys will be happy. I kept it to a minimum, but the first like you're saying, the first page or maybe 2 or 3 pages of this chapter, just like a lot of like kind of like poetic, I guess, like imagery of what like the explosion and men dying and stuff like that. Like again, there was a lot of those types of quotes too in the Davos thing, where it's like. Just like quotes that show how brutal like this war is, up close and personal.
You did always used to claim how George started all these chapters with a poem, so
or ends them with a poem. This is why we read the last quote of the chapter a lot. I think this one I think. Again, I don't know if it's a poem, but like the beginning and ends are normally pretty good. At least one of them.
Yeah.
So this one where was Tyrion, like, what's his position in this battle?
He's just up on a hill, right? Or on the not a hill, but a castle wall.
Yep. But he's too short, so he's got to be like up on this Merlon.
Is he?
Like inside?
They just build him a little. They didn't build him a little stand to be on.
Like I guess like he's out in like potential prime time, get hit by arrow if he's on a Merlon.
Yeah,
right?
But I'm assuming he's up pretty high.
Well, they built hoardings too, right? So I don't know. Build him a little window or something like that, right?
It doesn't sound like Joffrey's out in the mix, right?
No. Well, Joffrey's right with him, right next to him.
Yeah, I think they're pretty well protected. Like the perfect arrow shot would have to get through a pretty small hole from pretty far away for them to be hit.
Sniper. That's what it would take. Sniper. So I think he's pretty safe. But anyway, he's just looking out on the river at the destruction that he has brought essentially to all of these people. He does note that it didn't go exactly according to plan. There's part of the fleet is still outside, even though the fire is kind of washing towards them.
Yeah, the river saved a couple of the ships for, I guess more than a couple. It ends up being a decent amount.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them were up north or above upstream, maybe not north, but they're upstream of where they all the fire started. And we even got that in the end of last chapter. Davos was talking about how some of that fleet made it through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Basically on the south shore. So I got the map up. I just pulled the map up here just so we can kind of see it. What you guys are explaining here is the ships on the south shore. So Davos is left. They were kind of able to sneak by. Tyrion mentions that here too, like a decent amount of them. He mentions that some of the ships in back, some of them like were screwed because the fire was getting pushed down towards them in the current. But some of them were just able to beach, right? Just go to shore, either north or south bank, and kind of like, okay, they're not burnt up, but they're not in a great spot, but they're also not burnt up. So
yeah, the people didn't all die in the river.
Yeah, at the very minimum delay, right? Like this is at least caused a huge delay, which does it help too much at the end of the day? Probably not, but it's better than nothing. And it does seem to have done a ton of damage. But there's some quotes here which make Tyrion think like this, it's not enough. Like that's kind of the vibe I get, right?
Well, it definitely pokes Stannis as well, which is kind of what he was going for, right?
Yeah.
like to bring reality to Stannis here.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I know you're watching.
I mean,
this. You just
even
watch.
if it's not enough, this is a hell of a first punch.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a good start.
And it's a little bit weird to not that Joffrey is really thinking, but he did sacrifice a decent amount of people and ships for. I don't know how many people were. Like, I don't think many people were on the.
It wasn't even that many ships, right? It was like 10.
Yeah, but they like I guess it wasn't the best ones. Like the best of the fleet went with on the Marcella voyage, but like they weren't shabby ships. Like they were pretty big ships. Seems
maybe
like.
They weren't filled with like oarsmen. Maybe they were. I mean, they were Raymond people, so I guess they had some oarsmen on them and whatnot.
They were probably loaded
the
up.
original ones like were in the fight. Maybe the thing is like the big question is, do you think those captains knew? Like, do you think
They couldn't.
Like,
they couldn't
fight. But like when this shit starts coming down behind you, you're gonna want to get to shore or something like that, or
no, he had to just let him get out there because I mean he even mentions it. If I forget what he said,
I will say
they would have seen the trap. I forget what exactly was like. If we didn't do it this way,
they had to know that their goal was to go provoke them and then pull upriver though.
Yeah.
So like I mean they had to have some sort of insight into the plan. Maybe not that everything was going to catch on fire and they were preparing to be sacrificed.
I'm pretty sure Tyrion said it. I think it's when Joffrey's like, "What are you doing? Those are my ships." And he's like, "Yeah, but if they weren't in there, it would have looked like a trap, and they never would have came into the river if we didn't have our ships kind of waiting here."
I don't know if Tyrion says it, but I think he at least thinks it. For sure. Yeah. But yeah, kind of like what you're saying, Kyle. Davos is kind of. It's like a little bit too late, but he's like in the chapter we read of him, like he's putting that together. Like, why are they back? Why are they backing water? Right. Like as soon as they start to get past the chain, the enemy ships start backing up. He's like, wait, why are they doing that? So like, if they're doing stuff like that, you think like, again, I guess that just like lure them past the chain. You still don't know there's wildfire coming up behind you.
Yeah. They didn't know that the entirety of the river was going to be on fire.
Yeah. Tell them just what they needed to know.
Yeah.
So one of those quotes that towards the beginning of the chapter that just kind of like shows where we're at is the kiss of wildfire had turned proud ships into funeral pyres and men into living torches. The air was full of smoke and arrows and screams. So just like,
dude, it's got to be a brutal sight.
Yeah.
Burning to death is, you hear like, would you rather burn to death or drown to death? Like they're two awful ways to go, and they're both happening in this battle right now.
This is the time where you get to make. It's like one of those things where it's like the hypothetical. It's like, would you rather burn to death or drown to death? And I'm like, I would never have to make this choice. So shut the fuck up. What a stupid hypothetical. Like that Kyle type of person.
Yeah.
This is where you'd have to choose.
Well, that's what an oarsman was saying. An oarsman on the Sea Guard was thinking that. He's like, don't worry about that. And then boom, there's well. I would rather take the Volkswagen sized stone to the face.
For sure. Or then drown or burn. Yeah, big time.
You wouldn't want both? Because I mean these people are burning while they're drowning, essentially.
Yeah, that's true. I had another fire quote, is just it kind of goes one into the next. He says that the green and kind of orange fire with the smoke and everything, it looks like dragon fire.
So read the quote. A dozen great fires rage under the city walls. Do you see that?
A dozen great fires raged under the city walls, where casks of burning pitch had exploded, but the wildfire reduced them to no more than candles in a burning house, their orange and scarlet pennons fluttering insignificantly against the jade holocaust. The low clouds caught the color of the burning river and roofed the sky in shades of shifting green, eerily beautiful, a terrible beauty, like dragonfire. Tyrion wondered if Aegon the Conqueror had felt like this as he flew above his field of fire.
Yep, that's the quote you're thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I had that one too. I think that's like a really again, like we heard from Davos. This was like it's sunset, right? Like he said, like there's just enough sun for him to see the glint on the steel of the chain. So now
it's had to be lighting up the sky.
Exactly, it's like a red sky in Davos, and now we have Tyrion talking about how like the low clouds are reflecting this green from the fire, just like.
Well, then he does kind of even bring up Stannis in this, and he's like, "How do you like fire now, buddy?" Like, because he has a flaming heart, right? And it's like, and it's got the flaming crown, and like, he's like, "Here, try mine on," you know?
Yeah. Do you hear them shrieking, Stannis? Do you see them burning? This is your work as much as mine. So I brought this up because we had mentioned like in the last one, I was like, oh, like kind of jokingly, like, what do we do with the frag count here? Like, do all these kills from the wildfire go to Tyrion? Like, what if like later we get like some type of number that X number of people died from that wildfire explosion. Like, does Tyrion get that many in the frag count? And I think we had concluded yes. But then this quote here, Tyrion's basically saying, like, he's kind of like horrified, right? He's horrified slightly by what he's done. And he's like, I don't want to take credit for this. I'm blaming you, Stannis. Like, I would never have done this if not for you. So you take half these.
You forced me into a
Yeah, so
corner.
does Stannis take half the frags for the wildfire?
No, we don't.
Yeah,
until we
we
get
don't
a
care.
until we get a confirmed number of dead. I don't know if we can't give anybody, and
it's
yeah,
like
it'd be
estimatable.
impossible. I mean, maybe they estimate it, and it's all Tyrion's fault.
Like even if we get the number dead from the battle, like that's not straight to the wildfire.
It's all Tyrion's fault.
So that just reminded me that we haven't heard about the comet in quite some time now.
It's probably
but
gone.
you would have thought somebody would have said like the
Yeah.
comet has.
Oh, it's the
is no
first day
longer-
that we didn't see the comet. You're right,
It was
Kyle.
finally gone. It
Yeah.
crash landed in our backyard.
We get it again. I think Davos said it, but while he's thinking of like, oh, Stannis, do you hear all the shrieks and whatnot? He mentions again how Stannis is like his pop and
Yep.
usually is in the back, and he just wonders. I don't know if he knows where he's at, right?
Well, he says he's probably in the back somewhere with his crown on his head, and
Right.
Tyrion has like a good description, like pretty accurate description of what we have heard of Stannis' crown. This crown,
Yeah.
like in the shape of like fire,
Mhm.
and Tyrion has got this from Varys. So like while we're here, like Varys told Tyrion about like the whole Storm's End thing, right? Like Courtney Penrose got
Mhm.
like Tyrion was with Shay, and he like
Getting pushed out.
yeah, he like knew something weird was up. And then because that's when that's when Varys tells like his whole like this is how I was cut story to Tyrion, right? Like because of that Courtney Penrose thing, I think.
Yeah.
So now we're also getting this about Stannis. My point is, I guess it seems like Varys has some good connections, good spies placed somewhere
Mhm.
pretty high up on Stan. I guess you wouldn't need to be too high up to know about his crown.
Just to have seen his crown.
I mean,
his
it could
crown.
be rumor mill too.
Could
Like,
be
oh,
anybody.
he's got the fire sigil and his crown is flames, and
But just 2 for 2 for Varys on reports on Stannis is, I guess my point.
I think we can confirm that Varys has been pretty good at his job.
Yeah. Again, one of the things. Again, I like to keep an eye on Varys because we know he plays games. He's not like the humble servant. I'm going to tell you everything I know when I know it.
Yeah.
So that one of the other things you can do, one of the things I've said he probably does is like withhold information until it's good to give out. But another thing is like if he is like alliance with one side or the other, right? Like if he was alliance with Stannis, maybe withhold some of his information, right?
Yeah.
Or tell false information that like we would eventually find out that maybe us as readers would know to be false or something like
It's
that.
possible.
And I'm
Yeah.
saying on this one, it seems like okay, we're getting true.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen that quite yet.
Yeah.
But
All right, so Joffrey gets in the mix of this whole deal, and he's pissed off about his ships burning up in the bay or the river. I guess they're not in the bay.
Yeah.
but
Kingslander,
My
Queen
ships!
Cersei, Loyal Man, and Seaflower.
they're gone. And this is what I was saying earlier. I mentioned there was no other way. If we had not come forth to meet them, Stannis would have sensed the trap.
And again, I think, like we were saying earlier, Tyrion's horrified that he's doing this killing in general. But I think this is him, like, convincing himself that he just sacrificed his own men, right? That's probably not a super easy thing to do, right? Like, oh, I'm just willingly sending these 10 ships. Like it's kind of like the thing, like, I think in certain states, if you get sentenced to the death penalty, you can still request, like, death by firing squad. And if that happens, they basically get laid down at like 10 people, and I think 2 or 3 of them don't actually get bullets, right? And then the premise there is so that any person in the firing squad can go home and like tell themselves at night, I didn't kill that guy. I had the blank, right? So you don't know if you're in the firing squad, you don't know if you did or not. So there's like plausible deniability, I guess. Like I didn't actually do this immoral thing. Tyrion here is thinking, I guess like what he's saying is like I had to do it, and then the other thing is B. Kind of like what you guys were saying with Theon, and I guess with the other thing with John.
You're
right?
a soldier. You're a soldier. Yeah.
You kind of have.
I mean,
you
I
guys
don't-
are saying.
I don't know what that feeling's like. Obviously, we've been very lucky. I think the 3 of us. I know when I drop in on Call of Duty, he's gonna kill. He's gonna shoot back at me.
It's me
They're
or
gonna
him.
shoot back. So
I think yeah, in certain cases that you're a soldier can fit. I don't know that you should be sacrificing your own men.
that
But
is
like
the
you
fucked
said,
up
Nelson,
part for
he's
sure.
he's justifying it by saying like they were dead either way fighting this naval war.
If we
Like,
didn't do this, they were dead because we lose.
they were sunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think B, he does not saying it, but I think it kind of goes with like what he said earlier is like with some of these ships could have made land is like kind of like what I was saying with the bullet thing is like they're not. It's not 100% sentencing these guys to death. It's just like 85-90% sentencing these guys to death. So I'm not that horrible of a guy. You know what I mean? Like maybe.
I tried to help them get out. I told them to turn around as soon as they could, and like draw them way up. And
like there's a chance that like the Baratheon fleet comes up perfectly, the wildfire comes up, they just beach on both sides, and then we lose nobody, right? Like in Tyrion's head, he's like, "Oh, that's possible." So it's all on them if they die. Again, I don't think that's quite true.
And he gives the excuse that you can't really control the wildfire. Once the wildfire was added in the mix, it was like, good luck.
Yeah.
Pretty.
I just love like the internal conflict that like all these characters are having here.
Yeah. The next kind of note I have, and I think it's in chronological order, he just mentions the chain. His chain. It's the first time he's mentioned the chain in a while.
Yep.
He can't see it because of all the smoke, but he knows that it's up.
Yeah.
Because Bronn, and he mentions how Bronn would have started spinning it early enough so that it was on its way, but not high enough yet. And by the time they were through, it's now at the proper height so they can't retreat.
Because this is a big river, right? We talked like Tyrion's been working on this chain.
Big
since,
river
like,
and a
chapter
heavy
2
ass
of
chain.
this book.
Yeah.
So like, this is a long ass chain, big ass chain. It takes a long time to draw that thing up.
Well, and they have no mechanization other than a pulley.
An ox.
It's not like they have a big ass motor.
They got to kick an ox in the ass to get the chain up, and it's got to be pretty deep too, right? Like I mean,
to fit these boats through, it has to be.
Yeah.
It's really wide,
especially the big ones. Yeah, and it's super wide, so it's.
There's this river like near where we're from, like called the Susquehanna. I always thought of like the Blackwater kind of like as that type of, again, this is going to be very locally if anybody knows that river. I always thought of like that type of like that, right? Like you can see the other side.
River.
It's pretty big, but that river's shallow as fucking maybe I'm wrong, but like at least the places that I've been to, like near Harrisburg, it's really shallow, like in between Harrisburg and whatever's across the river there, right? Like, but that's kind of the width I picture when I picture the Blackwater. It's gonna be nobody's gonna know. Like, what that means. It's probably
you can see it cross it.
But my point is like that's a pretty wide river, but it's not that shallow, or it's not that deep. You couldn't take a galley up it.
I mean, I don't know. Do you know that?
I don't. I'm guessing.
I don't know. There's many rivers.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess this is the mouth of the river near the ocean. Maybe it's just normally deeper there. I don't know.
I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Maybe the Delaware. Can you get a galley
it's
up
also
the Delaware?
A fictional river, so it doesn't matter.
Maybe it's 100 feet deep.
The Blackwater? It's real in my mind.
Which, I'm not even going to get
So he gets into that ships survived, and they said there's still a good amount, and 8 had already landed on the shore on their side of the river.
Yep.
And he had to keep the battle sweet to keep them engaged.
Yeah, so there's another thing. Like we've heard about this before. Like we know the loyalty of these people inside King's Landing is like on like a blade's edge, right? So Tyrion's basically saying like it's not that we just have to win. We have to like stay. We have to keep the odds in our favor.
We have to stay winning. We can't go down. If we go down at halftime, they're leaving.
Which is kind of funny though, because like Stannis is dealing with a similar situation, I would say, right? Like
he's got some turncoats on his side.
He has a ton more dudes, but like
a lot of them are new.
A lot of them are fresh. Like they were just on Renly's side. Like they don't. Do they really carry that much about Stannis?
That's true, but they're well practiced because of that tournament.
Losing. Yeah, that they had with themselves exactly.
Or they were playing at war, as Catelyn said. Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is these were a lot of guys that kind of just seemed in it for the show of it and stuff too. So I mean, it's kind of a similar situation.
Exactly. Sweet summer children's what we call that, Kyle. That's what you are still.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't sound like Tyrion really knows that too much or recognizes it.
Yeah.
As much.
Yeah. And again, it's one of the things where you don't want to expect the worst, hope for the best. So
yeah.
So this new enemy is on the riverfront, and he sends word to Bywater to send out another sortie, right, to try and attack these men getting on the shore.
Real quick, before, so we're about to get, the rest of the chapter kind of takes place with what Tyrion's doing in the here and now. Right before we get to that, I'll set, what the last thing he says. And I think Kyle mentioned some of this earlier. The worst part about everything was one of you guys just said there was 8 ships that landed on their side, but there's also these 30 or 40 galleys that he says are going to be able to start ferrying men. Right.
They're still going to be able to do their job.
Yeah.
they still have enough of these ships left that they can start this all out assault on our walls.
Exactly, and this might be what causes. So you guys see real quick. Let's take a look at the map. I don't know where I'll put the map in the thing. I've kind of had it up the whole time for you guys to look at. But here's a separate map. It's again the same thing, just the other side, right? So this road is the same road that is on the left side of this map. On the right side of this map. So this is the King's Gate, right? So this is about to be important here.
That's where he was about to ride down to.
Yeah, this is where he's about to ride down to. But what I'm trying to point out here is so what we're saying is ships on the south bank. So they would have gone up past here, and now they're ferrying men. So what I'm saying is where Tyrion's about to ride to might be a direct cause of these 30 or 40 ships he's talking about here now starting to ferry men. Again, like we're about to get to, the report is there's men on the tourney grounds. The tourney grounds are right here next to the King's Gate. So I think, right, it makes sense. How else are they?
Some people have already made it across.
Exactly. How else would they be getting there?
Where would they be set up right now? Right at the edge of this map, you think?
Where Tyrion is?
Probably. Yeah. Right now, like watching this whole deal.
I think he's near the Mud Gate.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe makes in between sense. Because I think they say the catapults are behind the Mud Gate, and that's where Joffrey goes to. So he has to go to there. Yeah. So they can't be right there, but they're probably somewhere in between. They're close enough that they can see the ship going down. He was definitely
looking at the chain and stuff too.
But he said he couldn't see it.
He said if it wasn't for the smoke, he would have been able to see it.
Exactly. So he's probably pretty close to the Mud Gate.
And we can see that right on the edge of the mouth of the river with the two towers set up. Yeah. All right, cool. It looks like the river thins out a little bit too as you get further down. It might even be easier to ferry over.
Yeah.
So he does give Joffrey the catapults here.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of still trying to make sure to keep him out of trouble.
Yeah.
And don't they say that they're trebuchets, or was that in the Davos one? In the Davos one, they said there was trebuchet. They said they mentioned they were trebuchets.
I mean,
right?
he said it. He switched it back and forth.
The 3 horse.
So yeah, he does call them trebuchets again here, but he also goes into this whole thing about what they're going to do with these antlered men.
Those damn traitors.
And so he's giving them back to Stannis with the horse.
That's pretty awesome.
It's kind of fucked, right?
I mean, it's super fucked. I mean, at least I think they're already dead. I think.
I don't know if they are.
Is he shooting? It doesn't really say. Do we think they're alive or dead?
Well, there's antlers nailed to their head, so I don't know what that means. But in Prince of Thorns, they Jorg sticks nails in priests' heads, and it doesn't kill them. He says it changes them, but it doesn't kill them. So again, that's a super dark book. But
what was that one?
It's called Prince of Thorns.
Oh, okay.
But there's
he was making me listen to it.
All I'm saying is there's a way to do it where you keep them alive. It seems harder when you do it
trussed
through
up naked and antlers nailed to their heads. You're right. Yeah. So I don't.
I'm thinking they're dead.
It'd be tough, but I'm thinking it's possible. Yeah, left up to our imagination. But I will point out that in the Sansa chapter we read, where she goes to the Sept and stuff, Kyle had said like, Joff tells her like, I'm off to see to the traitors myself. But we had also heard that he was going to do the trebuchets, and there was like we talked about it for a minute or two. Like, what does it mean he's going to go see the traitors? He's going to be like inside, like just flinging stones out of the trebuchets. This is what he meant. He was going to go fling traitors out of.
I forgot. Nelson gave it to me in the spoiler section.
No, we didn't talk about that because that was the one we recorded the spoiler section. We recorded the spoiler section first on that one. I think maybe I told you in the Davos spoiler section, but that was
whatever. We talked about it at some point. You were like, "This is why we don't do the."
Yeah, this is why we don't do it first.
We might have even like signed off, and we were just talking. It was like, this is why we don't do the spoilers first, because we forget to talk about shit.
I knew that's why we didn't do it.
Yeah. So, but I had, as editor Nelson, gone in and added that in the. I was like, it was really pissing me off, and I don't want anyone to be like, wow, I can't believe Nelson doesn't know that he goes to flame the Antler Men here. So I was like, I know he does it.
Because Nelson can't be embarrassed by not knowing anything. All right, so. Joffrey's throwing over the Antler Men, but there are people coming, and they're trying to aim at the people, obviously, and they're like, hey, all right, you had some fun, but we're going to have to start throwing some stones again at these people because they're getting close, and we don't want them close.
Yep.
So he now sends word to Bywater to try and get people out there to start fighting them.
So I guess Bywater's at the Mud Gate, which is like in front of the whores, right? So pretty close to where Joffrey's going to be. So, and he's like, yep, send a sortie because things are not looking good.
Yeah. Joff's got his visor up, being stubborn. Got to keep that down, buddy. You could get an arrow to the eye.
Yep. Tyrion clangs it down, which again, like at this point, he already has like Cersei has like a hostage, but I kind of take this to be like Tyrion doesn't want Joffrey. Like Cersei was afraid Tyrion actually wanted Joffrey dead. Like Tyrion doesn't
Mhm.
actually want Joffrey dead, or else he wouldn't be doing this, right? He'd be like, "Yeah, run around with your jaw. You know what? Why don't you take your helmet
Hey,
off?
get down there closer,
Yeah,
won't
so
you?
take it off. It's easier to breathe." Like he's like, protect yourself. Yeah, like, don't be an idiot.
I don't know, man. I think he's really worried about Alayaya.
He brings her up later, and again,
He does,
I'm
yeah.
saying it's hard.
He
It's
brings
hard
her
to
up right
tell
now.
at this point because she's.
He brings her up right. I'm protecting
Yeah,
your
it's
wretched
part of
bastard
this.
as well
Yeah.
as I can, Cersei. He thought bitterly. See you do the same for Alayaya.
Well, I think that's after he tells Maren Trant and Osmond to protect, or he tells Osmond, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's in
Yeah.
the same
Just
breath.
right
But
here.
yeah. So
It's literally right after he puts his visor down. He's like, "Yeah, Osmond, like you better keep him safe." And after he thinks of that, now we get word that people are on the turning ground, and we've got they're ramming the door, right? They're ramming the King Gate.
Coming in.
They're knocking on the door.
Too bad they didn't have that giant wolf head one from Lord of the Rings.
Never seen it.
That's like the coolest battering ram ever, man.
Nelson won't let me watch it.
Nelson's gonna put that in Discord.
it's got a name too, right?
Yeah, it's definitely named. I forget what it is.
So yeah, he has to go to the king. You guys said he has to go to the King's Gate, and he takes off. And who's with Tyrion
Podrick,
and
Sir Mandon Moore.
his own personal Kingsguard? Yep.
That's
so
it.
They're right. Yeah, that's all he mentions. He might have his own like little normal guard of
Maybe
fuckwads,
some
but
Lannister men running with him.
normally he doesn't have Lannisters, and his mountains men are gone. So it might actually just be these guys. And Bronn's not around. So
Yeah, where are the clansmen right now? Just guerrilla warfaring in the forest still.
They should be on the other side of the river,
yeah,
right?
the forest.
It doesn't matter too much who is with them because they get there real quick.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing happens on
Yep.
the way.
No,
So,
nobody's in the street. It's all clear. They run
Yeah,
down.
you see the door is buckling, right? And they can see like things are about to be real here, and everybody's just kind of laying around, moaning, dying.
Yeah. There's a lot of wounded, but Tyrion thinks that there's enough to get like
It's
a sortie
mountain
going.
attack. Let's get them.
So he's like, "Who commands here?" And then Sandor steps out of his shadow, takes off his helmet. He's like, "I do." And his helmet is dented. The ear of his helmet is cut off. He's got a huge cut on his face, like making it blood run down his face.
You could tell it was on fire because I mean he was at the river. I'm sure
It was
right?
charred. Yep, exactly. And when Tyrion's trying to insist to go out, he's like, "Bugger that and bugger you," is what that
Bugger that and bugger you. I mean, he literally just says like, "All right, form up. You're going out." And he's like, "No." He's like,
Yeah,
"What?"
exactly.
Like, "Yes, you are. You're getting out there. Bugger that."
Well, I mean, everybody knows that the Hound hates fire, and here he is surrounded by like the
Surrounded
craziest
by-
fire of all time.
The Great
Right.
Fire.
Well, I guess they have dragons, so maybe this isn't the craziest fire of all time,
It's
but
close.
Yeah, it's the craziest fire in how many years now?
their lifetimes. Yeah.
Yeah, this generation.
So a sellsword steps up. Half of our men are killed or hurt. Wildfire bursting all around us. Horses screaming like men and men like horses.
Yeah.
Did you think we hired you to fight in a tourney? Shall I bring you a nice iced milk and a bowl of raspberries? No? Then get on your fucking horse. You too, dog. So this is Tyrion like snapping back at these guys. Like, we're in fucking
Yeah.
war here. Like, get the fuck together.
The sellsword mentions that they have been out 3 times, which
Yeah.
I guess it's your job. Like you signed
They've
up
been
for this
trying.
job. They haven't been not trying. It's not like they've just been sitting behind the wall. Like they've been out there. They've been fighting.
Davos saw the Hound last chapter. Do you guys remember?
He was on a ship. Yeah.
Yeah, he was fucking people
He
up.
boarded a ship. It was fucking people up. Yeah. And that was before the fire.
And then wildfire blew up the whole. What do you think he would do?
Exactly. He might have been on that ship when the ship went out. Like when it. Like,
Do they know? Like, is he afraid of fire?
we don't know. We know
I mean, he told Sansa
that
like the first time he met her.
that his face got burned. And then the other thing we have here is too, he loses his horse in the ride of King's Landing, and he's like commanding someone to go find it, but he doesn't want to go. And Tyrion's like, "You have to go put out the fire in Flea Bottom," because remember there's also a fire in Flea Bottom.
Yeah.
And Tyrion's like, "You have to go put out that fire." And the Hound, Tyrion said, like, thinks something to himself, like he saw it in his eyes, like, "Oh my god, the Hound is actually afraid here." So Tyrion has mentioned
Yeah.
this before.
Yeah.
Right? And
Okay.
I think at that point we probably brought it up in the spoiler section. That's like probably foreshadowing for this point when like the exact same thing
Right.
happens, right? But it's
'Cause
like
it
more
does come up.
important now. He needs way more. He needs Sandor
Yeah.
in this time. Yeah,
Yeah. So this is when he's looking in his eyes and he's like, "Oh my god, the Hound is actually scared."
yeah. So yeah, and he realizes like there's no way I can't just like out tough the Hound here and be like, "Get on your fucking horse to the Hound." So he tries to like
Yeah.
actually like explain like logically, like, "Listen, we have to go out there or we're all fucked. Like there's a ram.
Yeah, they're ramming it, man. You can hear them out there. They have to go.
Yeah, and this kind of shows you how scared the Hound actually is. Like his counter suggestion, he's like, just let him in. He's like, fuck it, just let him in. We'll fight him once they're in here. Which is just like he's got to be like, the way I take that is, I'll die. I'll fight. I'll die fighting for you, but I'm not burning for you.
I'm not going out to burn in this fire.
Fuck that fire.
Yeah,
That's even what he says.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not taking more into that fire.
Yeah. I've lost half my man horse. Well, I'm not taking more.
And again, kind of to like just how horrible it is out there, goes back to like what the way that sellsword describes it. Wildfire bursting all around us, horses screaming like men and men like horses. Like,
well, and the way Davos described it, the mouth of the Blackwater is now the mouth of hell.
Yeah, it's just so bad. Yeah. Rough.
The Hound needs a drink. Can someone get him a goddamn drink?
Yeah.
He's had a long night already.
Here's some water, man.
Bugger that water. Bugger that. That's a good line. Start using bugger that.
He said, water, fuck your water, bring me wine.
Bugger water. Oh, he does say it.
Fuck yeah, fuck your water, bring me wine.
Yeah, and then Tyrion's like, yeah, this is over. He's done.
He's mentally checked out.
He wrote him off right here. Like, officially, he's like, all right.
And this is just what he was talking about earlier. Like, if this is how the men feel, they're going to bounce. Like, they checked out.
Well, you're saying, like, he wrote him off. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. But also, it's like, it's not like we have time to be like, okay, hold on. Let's take the Hound aside and talk to him for 10 minutes. Like,
no, yeah, no,
like
exactly. That's what I'm saying. He wrote him off. He's like, all right, that's not working.
Yeah,
on to the
he's
next.
not a candidate at this moment because we have seconds to deal with this, not minutes or hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who else can we turn to do this? And
not Mandan Moore.
He's the first candidate, right? He's kind of the obvious candidate. He's the
obviously
Kingsguard.
He's probably the best knight out of.
Theoretically,
I don't
should
know.
be the best
I don't know
fighter.
who's fighting with him, but yeah, he's the Kingsguard. He's got the title.
But like,
he's not a leader.
He's
not a leader.
He's just kind of like Mandan Moore. Yeah, he wasn't the Hound, right? Like you're fighting for the Hound before this.
But Jaime says he is dangerous, and Jaime, I think
I know, but he's not a personality. Like I feel like the Hound is probably like that sounds like a WWE
for
character
sure.
almost.
Yeah, exactly. The Undertaker, the Hound. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like he's got a persona too, I'm sure. So.
And Tyrion looks around and realizes
it's me.
Again, kind of like to what we were saying with like Tyrion feels like he had to sacrifice his men here, kind of like Theon thought he had to sacrifice his men. There's this thing that Tyrion thinks, like, he decides he must lead it. He thinks it's madness, but sooner madness than defeat. Defeat meant death and shame. So again, like this one is more like, this is logical. What Tyrion's saying is logical. If no one does this.
If we just let them come in, we die.
Yeah.
But we lose.
He's also talking about like shame, like, fuck it, it's like better to die.
I'm going to be the worst hand ever.
Yeah, it's better to die than look like an idiot. Is part of this.
Can't be a coward.
Yeah. So when he said, like, after he announces that he'll do it, he thought that like maybe the Hound would have been shamed into like, okay, fine. But no, he just laughs.
He gets suited up and only 20 men respond to him. I don't know how many there are. Did they say how many are left? 100?
Yeah. We get some numbers here. But the first thing
I know 20 men respond at first, and he's like, "You guys are all, you're a pussy if you don't follow me," basically.
So the one thing I'll point out is Mandan. He tells Mandan he's gonna bear the banner. So like we've talked about this before. Like, what does that mean? Like, is Mandan gonna ride out with those? Like, what's he? Like,
There's gotta be a spike on it.
So we'll find out.
There's gotta be. It's gotta be a lance.
Yeah, right.
Or I think he still has a sword. I don't think he just.
Yeah, I think it's like a spear with a flag on it.
We've had this debate a million times. Go back to the one where Renly chooses who's going to hold the banner in his. We had it then. I think we've had it 2 or 3 other times.
I think it's like I really do. It's got to be like a lance, like a killing lance with a flag on it. Yeah.
Well, it's only.
It's got to have a point.
You're not bearing that banner for very long, then, right?
You've got one charge at it. You're going one charge into somebody.
Well,
and
what's the point of having a banner on the end of it?
Exactly. Then? I could see why it could be like a left hand banner, right hand sword.
It's like being the drummer at the Revolutionary War. You
stop. We had the same conversation week after week.
So Tyrion mounts up.
Who would you rather be, the bannerman or the drummer?
Oh God,
I'm going bannerman. You can at least stab him with the pole.
I'd rather burn than have this conversation again.
I'd rather drown.
I'll take the Volkswagen to the face.
So only a handful of men responded to Tyrion, less than 20, and even they didn't look too good. And there's a bunch that hadn't joined up. Let's read it. Let's read the end. They say I'm half a man.
He said,
"What does that make the lot of you?"
That shamed them well enough. Knight mounted, helmetless, and rode to join the others. A pair of sellswords followed, then more. Kingsgate shuddered again. In a few moments, the size of Tyrion's command had doubled. He had them trapped. If I fight, they must do the same, or they are less than dwarves.
You won't hear me shout out Joffrey's name.
He told them.
You won't hear me yell for Castle Rock either. This is your city Stannis means to sack, and this is your gate he's bringing down. So come with me and kill the son of a bitch. Tyrion
unsheathed his axe, wheeled the stallion around, and trotted toward the sally port. He thought they were following, but never dared to look. Yeah, because, he can't, right? Like, if he turns around, that's kind of... You with me, right?
He only has 40 people. Do we think 40 people's the number? It's not a whole lot.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely screwed here.
It swells to
hundreds
40.
Hundreds landed at the tourney ground, and probably more on their way.
Yeah, 20, yeah,
20
it can't be more. It can't be too much more than 50. I'm thinking 50 minimum, but it can't be too much more than that.
Does he have more fire? Who knows, right?
We'll find out. Maybe there's 2 chains.
2 chains.
2 chains, but I got me a few on. Everything hot, skip, loop.
Yeah, any final thoughts on the chapter?
Things aren't looking good, right? That's really what it comes down to here. This is...
The first punch wasn't enough.
Things are not looking good for King's Landing, right?
Yeah. The one kind of symbolic thing that I saw that I wanted to point out was Tyrion mentions at the beginning, how he, how Stannis leads from the back, like Tywin does. I feel like Tyrion thinks of himself like that. Like, he's moving these pieces. He's playing this game with the wildfire. He's playing this game with the chain. But at the end of the day, here he is doing the Jaime thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Charge himself.
He took it upon himself pretty quickly there to just jump right in. I have to do this. And he even said that about Joffrey before too, where it's he has to be seen because people want to fight for a king that's there with them.
And to Joffrey's credit, he's not
hiding. Yeah.
Super scared. He's fuck it, I want to go launch these people. Yeah. And it's not in a safe spot. It's at the Mudgate.
He's pretty safe.
He's got all the Kingsguard around him. He's got his own command of 20 people.
He's got to be high. He's not an arrow. Maybe he's an arrow range. I don't think he's getting hit by an arrow from a ship. If they're on the beach
he's
and
right behind
up,
the gate. If this gate, the gate that Tyrion's out is about to be potentially broken down. Joffrey is potentially theoretically he just got sent to these trebuchets, which we know are right behind the Mudgate. Maybe it's a block away, but they're pretty close to the Mudgate, which we heard as Tyrion came over here. They're having their own problems, right? Right before Tyrion came over here, he sent a command to Jacelyn to send us another sortie out the Mudgate because that shit was going down. And
probably a similar situation, yeah.
And he sent Joffrey near to the Mudgate. So again, Joffrey may not know all this, but I feel like the show portrays Joffrey as a little more scared in this battle. And Joffrey doesn't actually ever seem scared at all. He seems kind of cruel and sadistic. Exactly. And let's launch these antlered men off his catapult.
It is curious. It is curious to see what he would... yeah, I don't know if he is... But he's not in it either. He's not in the mix.
Not at all.
He didn't ride down to the King's Gate because there was people knocking on the door.
That's not what I'm saying. But Tyrion wouldn't allow it. I don't think anyone near would allow it. But I'm just saying, people who come from the show, they think Joffrey's a pussy and kind of have that in their head. And again, I don't think he does anything super oh, I'm so scared in the show. Nothing like that. But he's not as
I don't think the show gave him a choice either. He was kind of...
He's chomping at the bit here. I want to launch these fuckers. He's a crazy motherfucker.
That's where glory comes from to all these kids, right?
I think that's all he really wants to do, though, is launch these kids.
And the glory to tell people he participated in this thing after the fact if they survive, right?
Yeah.
Here's the role I played.
Yeah. He doesn't want to be like that. But I think I think he would be scared if he was placed in a more dangerous position.
Yeah, probably. You're right.
I agree with Kyle. We don't even know how well he's trained in the one opportunity we've seen so far of him to actually be in combat. He walked away because he quote unquote wanted a real sword.
Yeah, potentially bluffed his way out of it. Yeah. But we don't. That's the thing. I think we said this before too. We don't know. Joffrey could be good.
We don't know. He could be awesome. But if he was awesome, but Jaime was already known at this point, right?
Yeah.
Jaime was already a well-known fighter in tourneys and whatnot. We haven't heard of one time of Joffrey being in the list or doing anything like that or blah, 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 blah.
I think Jaime might have already been named to the Kingsguard
really?
At Joffrey's age. Because I think Jaime was one of the youngest.
How old was he?
The Kingsguard Joffrey's like he's older than Rob, isn't he?
15
maybe
or
Joffrey's
16?
younger.
I thought
than
he was
Rob.
like
For some
14.
reason,
I think he's younger
right,
than
he might
Rob,
be younger
but
than Rob.
I think
For
he's.
some reason, I was thinking he's older.
I think he's like 15.
which was just making me put him at like 20ish. But you're right. He might be decently younger than 20.
I think he's 15.
Let's see.
But how old is Loras Tyrell? Is he much older?
Joffrey's like 13 or 14. 13.
Oh, that's
yeah.
pretty young.
So he's young. Never mind. He's below where
That's
he might
super
not
young.
even be Tony age. You're right.
Okay, I take back on.
You
the
got to
Jaime.
think Jaime was starting like around this time. Well, and to what you're saying, I think Tyrion said that.
He was probably like combating with people in like the practice grounds.
To be fair, Jaime was not king at this age.
Or Prince, yeah.
Well, Prince.
Or
but-
even Prince before he was the
You're
king.
just saying Joffrey has more on his plate than just practicing.
Yeah, I don't
swords
think
all
he
day.
can just be out being, I don't think he's getting trained for military
Taking a
service
lance to
all day.
the face and an attorney.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And everybody's treating him giving him the, oh, you almost got him that time, Joffrey. Like, keep going. Like nobody wants to beat up the king,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think in the last Tyrion chapter, when he's with Cersei and then she brings out Alayaya, I think Tyrion says something to Cersei, like, if you want him to be his, like, because she's trying to convince him to, like, he's trying to convince Cersei to let Joffrey, like, participate in some way in the battle. And it seems like he won this fight. And he says, if you want him to, like, exactly what Jeff said, if you want him to be his father's son, you have to let him play the part. Like,
Let him play
Yeah,
the part.
so-
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Cool.
All right. I don't
All right,
have great
Kyle.
predictions. I think maybe the Hound snaps out of this a little bit and has to save Tyrion, I guess. If you need me to make a prediction,
Hound saves the day.
I don't know how
Take it
how
to-
fully
take it to the
behind that
bank.
one I am. I just think it's one of those things that I think could happen. So we'll see.
The Hound bursts through the flames.
The other thing, did the
Sucks it
Hound
up a
lose
little
it?
bit.
The Hound lost his horse here again, right? Like
I think he said I lost half my men horse as well. So
And my
maybe
horse.
half my horse. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that.
I didn't know if like he meant it died or he lost it because he lost. That happened in the riot too.
I lost half my men, horse as well. He doesn't say my horse, so
Yeah, like I said, I think he might just be like my unit's horse, like the collective horse. Half of them
gotcha.
are gone.
Yes, gotcha.
But I
Makes
don't
sense.
know.
yeah,
Cool.
agreed. I agree.
I just
with
thought it
you.
weird because
We don't know.
that's just another parallel to the fire in Flea Bottom because in the Ride of King's Landing he loses his horse and he comes back he's like, where's my horse? And there's the fire and he's like, somebody has to go get it. I think he's like, somebody has to go get it for me because he doesn't want to go into the fire.
Yeah.
But I might be
Yeah.
wrong about that. But yeah. So yep.
All right.
All right, cool. So we'll see Kyle in the next one for Sansa 6 and we'll see the rest of you guys in the spoiler section. Bye.
Yeah, sweet. We get another continuation of King's Landing here. So,
Keep the ball rolling, baby.
all right. Later, nerds.
Bye, Kyle. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Bye, Kyle. See you on the next one for Sansa 6. Now on to spoiler section. Jeff, what are your hot takes?
All right. I don't know if there's anything truly hot, too hotty. I think the biggest thing will be obviously that Mandon Moore tries to slice off Tyrion's face. Actually does slice off his face. To Kyle's prediction, the Hound is not going to come back to the fight and redeem himself. We know he's going to go hide in Sansa's bedroom.
And try to rape Sansa.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to read that because I don't remember that.
I put it in the Discord because we talked about it in the last one. I put it in
What,
the Discord.
like the page?
Podcast that came out
The
today. I can go
page?
to it and read it. The podcast resources for spoilers. You actually don't have access to this anymore. I'll have to add you back to this.
You started talking about Lords of the Rings today, and I'm like, I can't see any of this
You
stuff.
got removed from some of the Discord chats today on request.
That's ridiculous.
By special request of Haley.
She wanted me out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
So this is a quote that we were talking about in the last Sansa chapter, Sansa 5. And it's from Storm of Swords, Arya 13. This is when the Hound is dying from his wound.
Is he dying?
He's dying from his wound. Again, he doesn't see Brienne.
Did he die?
No, he doesn't die, right? Well, that's a whole different theory, gravedigger theory. We'll get on to that a different day. But last Arya sees of him, basically. His eyes opened. You remember where the heart is? He asked in a hoarse whisper. As still as stone she stood. I was only... Don't lie, he growled. I hate liars. I hate gutless frauds even worse. Go on, do it. When Arya did not move, he said, I killed your butcher's boy. I cut him near in half and laughed about it after. He made a queer sound, and it took her a moment to realize he was sobbing. And the little bird, your pretty sister. I stood there in my white cloak and let them beat her. I tote the bloody song. She never gave it. I meant to take her too. I should have. I should have fucked her bloody and ripped her heart out before leaving her for that dwarf. A spasm of pain twisted in his face. Do you mean to make me beg, bitch? Do you? The gift of mercy. Avenge your little Micah. So again, this could be some people say he never was going to rape her. This is him making shit up to convince Arya.
To try and make Arya kill.
But he starts this whole thing with, don't lie. I hate liars. I hate gutless frauds, even worse.
I think there's probably a part in his mind where he's like, we've heard how pretty Sansa is, and they've got like a connection. He probably was sexually attracted to her, you know, in a non kind of rapey way. But then it's like, well, the Blackwater, I'm going to be kicked out of the Kingsguard because I left the battle, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be an outlaw. Like, all right, this is my last chance, maybe. Like, maybe I should do it. And then it becomes very rapey. But
I think you're dead on, right? So let's go back to the very first chapter. That's not the prologue of the whole series, right? Bran watches Ned behead this guy. And what does Ned tell Bran about the deserter? Which is exactly what Bran is about to become. The deserter is the most dangerous criminal because he knows his life is forfeit. He knows that he just broke a rule so bad that if he gets caught, he's dead. So there's no rules anymore because there's nothing he can do that's going to make his punishment worse. Is the idea here, which is exactly what you're saying. He's quitting the Kingsguard. He's taking off in the middle of battle. Why not rape this highborn girl on the way out? Because
his life is over.
What else are they going to do to me?
Right.
So again,
once they find me, I'm dead.
I like the Hound, and I kind of like the idea that he was never going to rape anybody because it's horrible. But like it seems like from that quote, like he was gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, we'll get there. We're about to read that chapter in a few times, so I don't know. We probably don't want to linger on it too much.
Sure.
But
I'm going to say, obviously, the thought crosses mind. If we're going to say he's not a liar, or maybe he's lying about hating liars, I don't know.
Yeah. That's like but that's the next thing, right? That's where it goes. That's where Sandor's story goes. Next, we'll see if him is.
He's going to be with Sansa. Is that next chapter?
No.
There's 2 Sansa chapters before that.
We'll get Sansa, then we'll get Tyrion getting his nose cut off, and then we'll get the Hound.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing, right? I don't really know. Stannis is coming. Like, people are getting ferried across. Like, the battle's about to get really real. It's about to turn even worse for Lannisters. Tyrion probably thinks he's going to die. And then Daddy shows up.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one thing is they never know about Stannis showing up, right? Stannis. Nobody ever knows about Tywin showing up. Tyrion never realizes that. I don't think it's
the
very
ghost
clear.
of Renly, isn't it?
We might notice because we're like going through the fine-tooth comb and like we're on a reread, so we'll pick up any evidence of it. But like Kyle might not know that Tywin was ever even here until Storm of Swords. I'm not sure. I haven't finished taking notes on the rest of the book. I don't know if there's ever like
do we just hear that it's the ghost of Renly?
Because I think after this last Sansa chapter, all the rest of the like our finishing chapters, because it's only like, so let's think about it. We got, I'll tell you right now. The rest of the chapters we got for this book, Sansa, Tyrion, Sansa, Dany, Arya. So we do get a last Sansa chapter back in King's Landing afterwards. Then Theon, then a last Tyrion chapter afterwards back in King's Landing. What is that? I thought that Tyrion getting his nose slit was the last one, but I guess like we get him waking up in King's Landing. So we probably will hear a little bit about Tywin showing up by the end of this book. And the last 2 is Jon, where he ends up going over to the Wildlings. And then the very last one is Bran, where we find out, we knew Bran's alive, but we find out where he was hiding in the crypts the whole time. So that's going to be the ending of the book, right? So
yeah,
it looks like we will get a little wrap up of King's Landing with a final Sansa Tyrion at some point.
Okay.
I don't remember what happens in those though. So
I don't either. Do you have any what are your hot takes? What did you write down?
Like you're saying, I don't know if I would say hot takes, but the one is the battle. Tyrion thinks the battle must stay sweet from start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, an obvious sweet deal.
Obvious sweet.
I kind of mentioned in the non-spoiler, like, did we know that he's scared of the fire and that's why he's not going out there? I just don't like it's obviously mentioned in the show he's afraid of fire. And I think someone even like points fire at him and he like swats it away or what. I forget what happens.
Fire
in the show.
is
like,
definitely a big theme with him, right? So he has the whole fire, like I said, fire during the ride of King's Landing. He has this fire. We hear the story of his brother putting his face in the fire when he fights Beric Dondarrion. When Arya sees that, He freaks out because Beric's fighting with a flaming sword. Again, I think based on where the plot line of the story is going, I think what makes sense is, like, let's think about the show now. Battle of Winterfell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what happens with the Hound in that battle? I think it actually kind of makes sense.
Like the actual battle with the White Walkers.
One of the scenes I really liked from season 8 was Arya meeting the Hound again in Winterfell, and he's like, she says something like, "You never fought for anybody but yourself," and he's like, "I fought for you, didn't I?" And then in the battle, the next episode, there's this part where there's dragon fire, shit's popping off, and the Hound is like freaking the fuck out, and he sees Arya like in danger, and that's kind of like what snaps him out of it. And I think it could have been a little better done, but I like the idea, right? Like
I don't really remember that scene.
Yeah, it's definitely there. But again, I like the idea that the Hound has all these chances to face his fear, and he never does, right? He always backs down. We've seen it countless times throughout these book series. And then there's some time where it's Sansa or it's Arya or it's one of these two girls that he has grown attached to, and some potentially weird, slightly creepy, whatever. He's attached to these girls or some connection there. They're in danger, and then that's what makes him overcome this fear for the first time. I like that idea as like a story plot line as like a character development, right? I like that idea. So I think there's probably something with the Hound, just because, I mean, if you got your face burned off, you'd be...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you learn your lesson from shit like that. One of the things about the Hound while we're on it, there's a part where he's bleeding, but he's also really pale, right? And there's I don't think I actually have the quote, but there's a line that Tyrion says towards the end where it says, "I got like Weirwood vibes." It says like half, like the blood running down his face. The other half was white as milk or something like that. Let me try and find it. I don't have the book open right now.
I'm looking for it too. The blood on Clegane's face glistened red, but his eyes showed white. He drew his long sword.
Yep, there's that one, and then there's another one.
The Hound leaned on that notched and blood-streaked sword and looked at him with those wide, white eyes.
And Sir Mandon Moore moved to Tyrion's side, immaculate in his enameled white plate.
Yeah.
The king's hand commands you. Bugger the king's hand. Where the Hound's face was not sticky with blood, it was pale as milk. So, we just found not even, like, you found two that I wasn't even thinking of there, but, like, or at least one that I wasn't thinking of there with the sword, but, like, weird. There's a lot of that red, white next to each other. Mandon Moore, white plate, pale as milk, right? Like, there's just, like, a lot of...
Do you think we were going to get you iced milk and raspberries?
It's iced milk and raspberries. That's red and white. There's a lot of that. Like, I don't know what that means, but it seems purposeful, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know, maybe.
And when I think red, white in Game of Thrones, you think you think weirwood trees. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything to it, but that's kind of where I was at. I just kind of jumped out to me.
Yeah.
And the other two things is like, what happens with Joff after this? I guess these aren't hot takes, right? But like, where does this go? Where does Joff's story go from here? We kind of talked about what happens with Sandor.
They gotta huddle him up inside.
Yeah, so the next Sansa chapter we get, she'll be getting news. So it's weird. It's cool. The next Sansa chapter we get, I think it picks off, like, you can literally if you read these three Sansa chapters throughout the battle, they read like one long chapter. Like, literally, like the end of one just picks up. Like, I think the last Sansa chapter ends with like, and they were serving the broth, and then it was like as the broth was getting cleared away, Sir Osney came in the back of the throne room. It's like how the next one picks up. It's like they're right there.
The torches shimmered.
Yeah. If you'll see. Yeah, you'll see.
I gotcha.
So then,
it doesn't really matter.
But yeah, Osney comes in and he basically says, "Yeah, here's what's going on. Ships have landed. The Hound ran out into a sortie to fight him. Right, that's early Davos. He comes back later and gives them another update. Wildfire has exploded.
The Hound's actually quit.
Yeah, well, that's the last one. Wildfire has exploded, and then he comes back again. Third update: the Hound's quit. Tyrion's going out. So yeah, 2 updates covering Davos, 1 update covering Tyrion, and then back to Tyrion where we find out what's actually going on. So again, like, this isn't going to be as relevant for people who are listening to this and not when this releases, but we're mid House of the Dragon season 1, like, coming out by the time this releases. The first episode has that childbirth scene. I don't want to say too much in case anybody who's listening to this actually hasn't seen the show.
Spoiler alert.
But it's very intercut. And I feel like they got a lot of that from this battle. Like, let's see what's going on with all the women inside.
Yeah, what's inside
hymns,
versus what's outside.
Holding hands. Sansa's having her period, and then versus outside. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that when we watched episode 1.
Yeah, it's just kind of on my head. It's really jumping out to me because of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. But yeah, so what happens is here Tyrion tells Joffrey, you can go do your thing with the Antler Men.
But don't leave, right? He says he can't leave. Protect him at all costs, but don't let him leave.
Yeah, so he tells Osmond this. So I don't know if this is important, but he tells Osmond Kettleblack, keep him safe and keep him there. Don't let him leave.
And who's the guy bringing in news?
Osney. And so Osfrid is the captain of Cersei's, is the new captain. So I said a few chapters ago I wouldn't learn who these guys were. I know who they got. I got them straight away. Osfrid is the new captain of Cersei's guard. In the Sansa chapter, he's giving her news from inside the castle, not of inside King's Landing, of inside the castle, right? Osney is bringing her news about the battle from like inside the like what's going on at the Mudgate and stuff like that. So like Osfrid brings news of traders that stole horses from the stables and people who are rich merchants who are trying to get let into Maegor's and stuff like that. And Osney is bringing news about, Joffrey is at the Trebuchets now. And when Cersei gets that news, she also gets the news that, Joffrey's at the Trebuchets now, and Jocelyn has to send a sortie out the Mudgate because shit's kicking off there. And Cersei knows the Trebuchets are at the Mudgate. So she's like, no, pull him back here. And he's like, but the Hound said, and she's like, I don't give a fuck what the Hound, or
the Hound or the Hand?
The Hand. He's like, the Hand said, and she's like, I don't give a fuck what the Hand said. Bring Joffrey back. So yeah, that's like, again, I think this is when she.
Do you think Joffrey would have stayed?
I think he 100% would have stayed. Might have got fucked up.
Do you think he would have let out a sortie?
He got fucked up. He would not have let a sortie, but he would have been flinging people, I think.
He did say he was going to gut his uncle.
Yep. He didn't quite, but he made it through. He makes it through. Spoiler.
He does survive.
That's all I got for this one. Not a long one. Short chapter, short podcast, short spoiler section. I think we're quick.
Did Joffrey command Mandamore to kill Tyrion?
I don't think it was Joffrey. I think it was Littlefinger. But we can talk about that a little more maybe in that Tyrion chapter, huh?
On the next time. All right, that's cool.
I will say while we're on that topic, we get when Tyrion thinks about who's going to go lead the sortie besides the Hound. The first person he goes to is Mandon. And what has Jaime said about Mandon? He's the most dangerous person on the King's Guard except for himself, as in Jaime. And we learn the truth of that in the next Tyrion chapter. Or, how dangerous Mandon Moore really is. So,
I mean, until Pod steps in.
Until Pod pushes his ass off the bridge. Yep.
All right, I'm good.
Thanks everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, join the Discord below. If you like listening to the spoiler section, you'll probably like what's going on in the Discord. We got a lot of the House of the Dragon talk recently, so join in. See you guys in the next one for Sansa 6. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.